The church bells echoed across the small town of Red Creek. Emily Carter stood at the altar in a beautiful white dress. Her hands trembled, not because she was nervous, because her heart belonged to someone else. The sheriff standing beside her smiled proudly. Sheriff Daniel Brooks, the most respected man in town. Rich, powerful, trusted by everyone. Do you take this man to be your husband? The pastor's voice filled the church. Emily forced a smile. A single tear formed in her eye. I do. The crowd applauded. Daniel kissed her hand. But Emily's eyes drifted toward the church doors, toward the empty space where one man should have been standing. Jacob Hayes, the cowboy she never stopped loving. 3 years earlier, Emily laughed as her horse raced across the open prairie. The wind danced through her hair. Behind her, another horse gained speed. You're cheating, she shouted. Jacob laughed. His deep voice carried across the fields. I call it winning. Moments later he pulled beside her. Their horses slowed. Neither looked away. Neither could. Jacob's eyes held the same fire that made every woman in town stare. But he only looked at Emily. You know I'm going to marry you someday. Emily blushed. Who said I'd say yes? Jacob smirked. You always say yes. She tried to hide her smile. Failed. The two spent every day together, working, laughing, dreaming, building plans for a future neither thought could break. But life had other plans. One evening, Emily arrived at Jacob's ranch carrying dinner. She found him loading supplies onto a wagon. Her smile disappeared. What's going on? Jacob avoided her eyes. I got work. Where? Montana. Emily froze. Montana? For how long? Jacob remained silent. Fear crept into her chest. Jacob? A year, maybe longer. The basket slipped from her hands. Food scattered across the dirt. A year. I need the money. We can figure something out together. Jacob clenched his jaw. No. The word hit harder than a slap. Emily stared at him, confused, heartbroken. What do you mean, no? I mean I have to do this alone. Tears filled her eyes. So that's it. Jacob looked away. His silence answered everything. Emily stepped closer. Look at me. He didn't. Look at me, Jacob. Slowly he turned. His eyes were full of pain, the kind that scared her. Don't do this. I have to. Why? Jacob swallowed hard. Because some things are bigger than love. Emily's voice cracked. We can survive this. No. The answer came too quickly, too cold, too sharp. Emily felt her heart breaking. Do you even love me anymore? Jacob closed his eyes. For a moment she thought he'd pull her into his arms. Tell her everything would be okay. Instead, he said the words that haunted her for years. No. Silence. Emily couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. Jacob forced himself to stay still, even as every part of him screamed to run after her. Because he was lying. He loved her more than his own life. But she could never know the truth. Emily stepped back. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then another. Then another. Goodbye, Jacob. She turned and walked away. Jacob watched her leave. Every step felt like a knife in his chest. The moment she disappeared down the road, he collapsed against the wagon, his eyes filled with tears. Forgive me. Months later, Emily waited, and waited, and waited. No letters, no messages, nothing. Eventually the town started talking. Jacob isn't coming back. That cowboy left her. She deserves better. Emily pretended not to hear them, but every word hurt. Then Sheriff Daniel Brooks entered her life. Kind, patient, reliable, everything Jacob wasn't. At least that's what she told herself. For 2 years Daniel stayed beside her, helping her family, protecting her, caring for her. And little by little she convinced herself the pain was gone, until the wedding day, until she looked at those church doors, and realized she was still waiting for the cowboy who broke her heart. The ceremony ended. The crowd celebrated outside. Daniel wrapped an arm around her waist. You okay? Emily forced a smile. I'm fine. But at that exact moment, far beyond town, a dusty rider appeared on the horizon, a tall cowboy. Weathered, scarred, dangerously handsome. Jacob Hayes had finally come home, and the first thing he saw was Emily leaving the church in a wedding dress. If this love story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more emotional romance stories every week. And tell me in the comments, would you choose a safe life or the person who makes you feel alive? Jacob's horse stopped at the edge of town. The church bells were still ringing. Laughter filled the streets. Children ran through the crowd. Flowers decorated every building. Everyone was celebrating. Everyone except him. Jacob stared at Emily. His Emily, standing beside another man, wearing another man's ring. For a moment the world became silent. His chest tightened. His hands trembled around the reins. 3 years. 3 years of pain. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years spent dreaming about the day he'd finally return to her. And now she belonged to someone else. A young boy ran past him. Did you hear? The sheriff got married. Jacob forced a smile. Yeah. The boy pointed toward the crowd. She's the prettiest bride Red Creek's ever seen. Jacob looked away. I know. The boy continued running. Jacob sat frozen. Then someone recognized him. Jacob Hayes? An older rancher stepped forward. His eyes widened. Lord have mercy. Within seconds, whispers spread through town. The cowboy's back. Jacob returned. After all these years? People gathered around him. Questions came from every direction. Where have you been? What happened to you? Why did you leave? Jacob ignored them. His eyes never left Emily. At that moment, she looked toward the crowd. Their eyes met. Everything stopped. Emily froze. Her smile vanished. The flowers slipped from her hands. The world disappeared. There was only him, Jacob, alive, standing only yards away. The same cowboy she had spent years trying to forget. The same man who shattered her heart. Daniel noticed her expression. Emily? She couldn't answer. Her breathing became uneven. Jacob slowly removed his hat. The crowd fell silent. No one moved. No one spoke. 3 years of unanswered questions stood between them. Emily felt tears burning behind her eyes. Jacob. The name escaped before she could stop it. Daniel's face darkened. He turned toward the cowboy. The sheriff had heard stories. Everyone in town had. The great love Emily never talked about. The man who broke her heart. The man she never truly forgot. Now, he stood right in front of them. Jacob forced himself to speak. You look happy. Emily stared at him. Happy? Was that really all he had to say? After disappearing? After abandoning her? After breaking every promise? You shouldn't be here. The words came out colder than she intended. Jacob nodded slowly. You're right. Pain flashed across his face. A pain only Emily noticed. Daniel stepped closer. Protective. Possessive. His arm wrapped around Emily's waist. My wife doesn't need any trouble. The word wife hit Jacob like a bullet. He lowered his gaze. Understood, Sheriff. Emily hated how calm he sounded. As if none of this mattered. As if she meant nothing. Anger exploded inside her. That's it. Jacob looked at her. What? You disappear for years and that's all you have to say? The crowd exchanged nervous glances. Nobody dared interrupt. Jacob's jaw tightened. I don't owe anyone explanations. Emily laughed bitterly. No, of course not. The tears she fought so hard to hide finally appeared. You never did. She turned away. Daniel immediately followed her. The newlyweds climbed into a decorated wagon. The crowd cheered once more, trying to erase the tension, trying to pretend everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. Jacob watched the wagon disappear down the road. His heart shattered all over again. That night, Emily sat alone inside the sheriff's house. Moonlight poured through the window. Daniel was downstairs speaking with deputies. The wedding celebration had ended, yet sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jacob standing there. Older, stronger, more dangerous than before, but also broken. Something about his eyes haunted her. A knock suddenly echoed from the front door. Daniel opened it. A deputy stood outside. Sheriff, what is it? The Hayes Ranch. Daniel frowned. What about it? Someone burned part of the barn tonight. Emily immediately looked up. Her stomach dropped. Daniel grabbed his hat. Who did it? We don't know yet. Emily stood, without thinking. Was anyone hurt? The deputy shrugged. Jacob Hayes was there. Emily's heart raced. And he put the fire out himself. Relief washed over her before she could stop it. Daniel noticed. His expression changed. Just slightly. But enough. Enough to reveal the jealousy growing inside him. Emily looked away. Daniel remained silent for several seconds. Then he grabbed his gun belt. I'm going to investigate. Emily nodded, but as soon as he left, she couldn't stop thinking. Jacob had returned after 3 years, and within hours someone tried to destroy his ranch. Something wasn't right. Something felt wrong. Far outside town, Jacob sat alone beside the damaged barn. The flames were gone. Smoke drifted into the night sky. His knuckles were bleeding, his clothes covered in soot, but he barely noticed, because he was staring at an old photograph, a photograph of Emily, one he had carried every single day. For 3 years, a tear slid down his face. You're married now. His voice broke. And I still love you. Suddenly, footsteps approached from behind. Jacob quickly wiped his eyes. A shadow emerged from the darkness. An elderly man, Jacob's former ranch foreman. The old man looked concerned. They know you're back. Jacob nodded. I figured. The old man hesitated, then spoke the words that changed everything. They're still looking for the evidence. Jacob stood instantly. His expression turned deadly. What evidence? The old man lowered his voice. The proof that your father's death was an accident. Jacob's eyes darkened. 3 years ago, he hadn't left town because he stopped loving Emily. He left because someone murdered his father, and he had spent every day since trying to find a killer. Now, that killer might still be living in Red Creek, very close to Emily, very close to the sheriff. The night grew colder over Red Creek. Jacob stood still in the ashes of his burned barn. The old foreman's words kept repeating in his mind. Your father's death was an accident. Jacob clenched his jaw. So it was murder. The foreman nodded slowly. We kept quiet because we didn't know who to trust. Jacob's eyes sharpened. Start talking. The old man hesitated, then continued. 3 years ago, your father found something he wasn't supposed to find. What? A land deal. Illegal. Signed by powerful men in this town. Jacob's fist tightened. Names. The foreman looked around nervously. I can't say everything out loud, not yet. Jacob stepped closer. You came all this way to tell me nothing? I came to warn you. They know you're back, and if they find out what you know, I already know enough. Jacob interrupted coldly. Silence fell between them. Only the crackling remains would echoed in the dark. Far away in the town, Emily stood at her window. She couldn't sleep. The sheriff's house was quiet. Daniel had still not returned. Her thoughts were trapped on one thing. Jacob, the way he looked at her. Not like anger. Not like guilt. Like pain. Real pain. She pressed her hand to her chest. Why now? She whispered. A knock suddenly came from downstairs. Emily froze. Slow footsteps followed. Then Daniel's voice. It's me. She rushed down. Daniel entered, his coat dusty, face tense. Any news? She asked quickly. Daniel shook his head. Nothing solid. But something doesn't feel right. Emily studied him. What do you mean? He paused before answering. Jacob Hayes didn't come back just for you. That sentence hit her like a shock. Emily frowned. What are you saying? Daniel's jaw tightened. I'm saying he's dangerous. Emily stepped back slightly. You don't know him. Daniel took a step closer. I know enough. Men like him don't disappear for 3 years and come back clean. Emily's voice rose. He's not like that. Daniel stared at her. A long silence passed. Then, that's what worries me. Emily turned away. Her heart was racing. Because Daniel wasn't wrong about one thing. Jacob was different now. Not the boy who laughed in open fields. Not the man who promised forever. Something in him had changed. Something dark. Meanwhile, Jacob rode through the edge of town under the cover of night. He stopped near the old courthouse records building. Locked, guarded. But Jacob had broken harder locks before. He tied his horse and moved silently. Inside, dust covered every shelf. Records, files, secrets buried under years of silence. Jacob searched quickly. Names, land deeds, old case files. Then he found it, a file marked Hayes family incident, closed. His heartbeat slowed. He opened it. Inside were documents, reports, statements, and one name repeated again and again: sheriff candidates, town council members, powerful landowners. Jacob's hands tightened as he read. Then he saw it, a signature, clear, official, Daniel Brooks. Jacob froze. The room felt like it dropped into silence. "No," he whispered. Behind him, a voice spoke. "You shouldn't have come here." Jacob turned instantly. A man stood in the shadows. Deputy Marshal, gun already drawn. "I warned you, Hayes." Jacob didn't move. His eyes stayed cold. "You were there that night," Jacob said slowly. The deputy smiled faintly. "I was." Jacob stepped forward. "Then you know who killed my father." The deputy raised his gun higher. "I know enough to make sure you don't leave this building alive." Outside, thunder rolled over Red Creek, and in the distance, Emily woke suddenly, her chest tight. Something felt wrong, very wrong. Back inside the records building, Jacob exhaled slowly, then moved, fast. One sharp strike. The gun dropped. A struggle erupted in the dark. Wood cracked. Glass shattered. The deputy hit the floor hard. Jacob grabbed the file before it fall and ran. Outside, he mounted his horse and disappeared into the night, breathing heavy, heart burning, because now everything made sense. The sheriff wasn't just Emily's husband. He was connected to the man who destroyed his family. And Emily had just married into the very center of his enemy's world. At the same time, Emily stood by her window again. A distant sound of hooves echoed faintly. She looked out. Nothing, but something inside her whispered, "Everything is about to change." Morning broke over Red Creek with an uneasy silence. The town looked normal. Too normal. Like nothing had happened. But Jacob knew better. He sat inside his hidden cabin outside town. The stolen file spread across the table. Names, signatures, dates, and one final line that made his blood run cold. Hayes family incident successfully covered under sheriff authority. Jacob stared at it for a long time. So it wasn't just murder. It was organized. He clenched his fist until the paper crumpled. Outside, his horse shifted nervously. Jacob stood up slowly. This ends now. At the sheriff's house, Emily was already awake. She hadn't slept, not after hearing hoofbeats in the night, not after Daniel came home late again, without explanation. She watched him now as he cleaned his gun at the table. Something about him felt distant, cold, different. "Daniel," she said softly. He didn't look up. "Yes." "Did something happen last night?" A pause. Then, "Routine patrol." Emily frowned. Deputy Marshal said there was trouble at the courthouse. Daniel's hand stopped for half a second, then continued. "There was no trouble." His tone was firm. Too firm. Emily stepped closer. "Then why are you lying to me?" That made him look up. Silence stretched between them. Daniel finally spoke. "You're asking a lot of questions about a man who doesn't belong in your life anymore." Emily stiffened. "That's not your decision." Daniel stood slowly. For the first time, his calm mask cracked. "Everything about this town is my decision." Emily felt a chill. "This isn't you," she whispered. Daniel stepped closer. "You don't know what I am." A heavy silence. Then he softened his voice slightly. "I'm protecting you, Emily." "From him." "From Jacob?" "Yes." Emily shook her head. "You don't understand him." Daniel's eyes darkened. "I understand enough. He's back for revenge." Emily looked away. Her heart was splitting in two directions, the past and the present. Meanwhile, Jacob rode toward town. But he wasn't alone anymore. 3 riders followed at a distance, watching, tracking. waiting. Jacob didn't need to turn around and know. They were sent for him. He slowed his horse near the canyon path, then stopped. The wind carried dust across the road. Behind him, voices called out, "Hayes!" Jacob closed his eyes briefly. So it had already started. He turned slowly. The three men stopped their horses. Sheriff deputies, armed. Ready? The leader stepped forward. "Sheriff Brooks wants you gone." Jacob's expression didn't change. "Tell your sheriff to come say it himself." The deputy smirked. "He doesn't negotiate with ghosts." Jacob's voice lowered. "I'm not a ghost." A beat of silence. Then, the deputies drew their weapons. But Jacob was faster. One movement. He dropped behind his horse. Gunfire erupted. Dust exploded into the air. Jacob returned fire once. A horse reared. One deputy fell. The other two retreated behind rocks. Jacob moved fast. Controlled. Calculated. Not angry. Focused. Because this wasn't a fight. It was survival. When the smoke cleared, silence returned. One deputy injured. The others fled. Jacob stood alone in the dust, breathing steady, eyes burning colder than before. "They're getting desperate," he muttered. And that meant one thing. They were close to the truth. At the same moment, Emily walked through town alone. People stared at her differently now. Whispers followed her. "She looks nervous." "Sheriff's wife is worried." "Did you hear about the gunfire outside town?" Emily stopped walking. "Gunfire?" Her stomach tightened. She turned toward the sheriff's office. Inside, Daniel was speaking with men. His voice sharp, controlled. "We find him. Tonight." Emily entered suddenly. Everyone turned. Daniel's eyes met hers. "Emily, what's going on?" she demanded. Daniel hesitated, then answered carefully. "Jacob Hayes attacked my men." Emily shook her head instantly. "No, that's not true." Daniel's expression hardened. "You weren't there." Her voice rose. "Neither were you." Silence dropped like a stone. Daniel stepped closer. His tone lowered. "He's becoming dangerous." Emily stepped back. "No." But Daniel didn't stop. "And I will not let him destroy what I built with you." That sentence hung in the air. Heavy, possessive, final. Emily stared at him. For the first time, she saw something behind his eyes. Not love, control. Outside, a rider watched from a distance. Jacob. He had come too close. And now he saw everything. Emily wasn't just trapped between two men. She was standing between truth and a man who might kill to keep it hidden. Jacob whispered to himself, "It's time." Night fell hard over Red Creek. No lights in the streets. No laughter. Only tension. Like the town itself was holding its breath. Emily stood alone in the sheriff's house. Daniel was gone. Again. But this time, she didn't feel safe. She looked around the room. Everything felt unfamiliar now. Like she had been living inside a lie she never questioned. A sudden knock shattered the silence. Emily froze, then slowly moved to the door. "Who is it?" A familiar voice answered. "Don't open it if you trust him." Her heart stopped. "Jacob?" Silence. Then, "Yes." Her hands trembled as she opened the door. Jacob stood there in the dark, dust on his coat, blood on his sleeve, but his eyes focused, alive, real. Emily couldn't speak. Neither could he for a moment. Then she whispered, "You're hurt." "It's not important." A pause. Then Jacob looked at her more deeply than before. "I came to take you away from him." Emily shook her head slightly. "You don't understand. He's my husband." That word hit again. But this time Jacob didn't break. He nodded slowly. "I know." Then he stepped closer. "And he's the one who killed my father." Emily's breath caught. "No." Jacob pulled the file from his coat and placed it in her hands. "Read it." Her fingers shook as she opened it. Names, reports, signatures, and Daniel's name. Again and again. Emily's face went pale. This can't be real." Jacob's voice lowered. "I wish it wasn't." A tear slipped down her cheek. "You disappeared. You let me believe you didn't love me." Jacob's jaw tightened. I left because I was trying to prove this. Silence. Heavy. Broken. Then, footsteps echoed outside. Slow. Deliberate. Both of them turned. Daniel stood at the end of the hallway, gun in hand. No mask anymore. No kindness. Only control. So, Daniel said quietly, you finally showed her. Emily stepped back instantly. Daniel, he raised a hand. No more lies. His eyes locked on Jacob. You should have stayed gone. Jacob stepped forward slightly. And let you bury the truth with my father? Daniel smirked. Your father was a mistake. Just like you. Emily shook her head in disbelief. Daniel, what are you saying? He looked at her now. And for the first time, the truth came out fully. I built this town. I control this town. Your father found out what I did with the land deals. He wanted to expose everything. His voice hardened. So I stopped him. Emily's world collapsed. You killed him. Daniel didn't deny it. I protected what I built. Emily stepped back in horror. You're a monster. Daniel's eyes flicked to Jacob. And you came back for revenge. Perfect. He raised his gun. A tense silence exploded. Then, gunfire. Chaos. Emily screamed and dropped to the floor. Jacob moved instantly. Fast. Controlled. He tackled Daniel into the wall. The gun slid across the floor. They fought. Fists. Struggles. Years of rage collapsing into one moment. Emily crawled toward the gun, hands shaking. She picked it up. Frozen. Two men. One truth. One past. One future. Daniel saw her. Emily, give me the gun. Jacob also looked at her. No matter what he says, you know who he is now. Emily cried. Her hands trembled violently. I can't. Daniel slowly stood, still bleeding. After everything I did for you, you'd choose him? Jacob stepped closer to her. I never asked you to choose me. A pause. Then softer. I just wanted you to know the truth. Emily looked at Daniel. Then Jacob. Her heart breaking completely. Then she lowered the gun and pointed it at Daniel. Silence. Daniel's face changed. Not fear. Anger. Emily, tears streamed down her face. You took everything from me. Daniel shook his head slowly. I gave you everything. Click. The gun shook in her hands. Jacob spoke softly. Emily, she didn't look away from Daniel. You made me live a lie. Daniel took one step forward. I made you safe. Emily closed her eyes. Then, a shot echoed through the house. Silence followed. Dust fell. Breathing stopped. Emily dropped the gun. It hit the floor loudly. She opened her eyes. Daniel stood frozen, then slowly collapsed. Silence swallowed everything. Emily fell to her knees, shaking, broken. Jacob rushed to her side, but didn't touch her immediately. Just stayed close, quiet, present. Emily whispered through tears. I don't know who I am anymore. Jacob finally spoke. You're someone who survived the truth. A long silence. Outside, the town remained still, as if it knew everything had changed forever. Emily looked at Jacob, eyes full of pain, but also something else. Trust, slowly forming again. I don't want more lies, she whispered. Jacob nodded. No more. A beat. Then Emily leaned forward slightly, not fully healed, not fully whole, but choosing honesty over illusion. And Jacob stayed with her, not as a cowboy from the past, but as the only truth she had left.